true that if you ask most people about Latin American art, they will come up with a very, very narrow image in their mind.
There's a lot of energy about it and passion, bold colors.
I think all ethnicities, they have like parts of their culture that they put into their art, but I don't really see it that way. When I see something on a wall or something, I just think that it just looks beautiful. I don't think, oh, this is Hispanic art, African American art, or whatever. I just look at it as art.
I'm a Hispanic artist. Like I write music, and like I know some friends, like they're also musicians, and like I guess some of my white friends, like when they write music, we write the same kind of music, but it comes out like differently.
Mixed in with all this kind of crude hand-painted lettering, there's a lot of ornamentation painted on the sides or the fronts of the buildings, little murals. Some of them are absolutely awful, and some of them are fascinating.
I don't really think of artists as by their race. I just think of art as art. I don't think of them at all. You know, art is one of those least critical fields where race really matters. Not like politics or anything like where you care like how many Hispanic congressmen there are. You know, who cares how many Hispanic artists there are? Nobody really cares. You know, that doesn't affect you. You know, politically or economics on how much money you make a year. So
affirmative action.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any affirmative action on how many Hispanic artists we have. Art is art. If it's good, it's good, and if it sucks, it sucks. That's what I think.
What classifies Hispanic art? Is that the person who made the art was Hispanic, or the art has a Hispanic look to it?
I don't paint the way I paint because I'm here in the United States and I feel that I need to adapt. This is who I am. I'm a mixture. Anything I do, I'm Mexican by birth. Anything I do is Mexican Hispanic art. If my images have Anglos in them or African Americans, it has nothing to do other than my personal interests, my personal experiences, and I don't feel that I need to cater to any community.
I've never really connected my ethnicity with my artwork. It's all an expression of myself, so I don't tend to separate it as far as doing artwork that's classified as Mexican American art. I am very surprised when people try to pigeonhole me into a specific type of artwork, or assuming that because I'm Hispanic I'm only capable of one type of artwork, or that my interest would only be with this particular artist.
It's not so much that Latin art is hot or Latin music is hot, but Latin artistry is being considered, and it's a really good thing. It's more important that we be thinking people than it is to paint the typical Latin iconography, whatever that is.
It's just a matter of finding other ways to express your identity, not being afraid to go into West Side galleries and lose your identity, not being afraid to make that sort of leap into mainstream, which I know is a terrible word and everyone hates it, but it's a reality, and I think these new Latino artists are seeing that reality, and that's what's making them successful, and this is a new direction.
En muchas galerías en Los Ángeles y también en muchas universidades. Cecilia nos va a decir una palabra y después nos vamos a tener que mover a el living principal para poder ver el proyecto que ellas no tienen para mostrarnos, ¿ok?
Bueno, muchas gracias por invitarme. Es realmente un placer conocer algunas ya las conocí, algunas personas aquí ya había tenido el gusto de conocerlas y sabía del proyecto de Unidas, y me alegro de que este proyecto continúe. Les cuento que nací en Uruguay, en Montevideo, y estudié allí con grandes artistas uruguayos, y estudié también en España, y estoy en Los Ángeles desde hace 14 años. Hace unos 3 años que estoy trabajando solamente, que vivo de mi escultura. Y eso es un gran placer para mí y fue una de las razones por las cuales me mudé a este país, porque pensé que hay una audiencia más grande. Y no por el interés, lamentablemente, porque el interés en Uruguay, en países como Argentina, Uruguay, en Latinoamérica es enorme. El cariño con que aceptan al artista, el interés que tienen de cualquier tipo de expresión artística es enorme. La escultura que hago, lo que hago es escultura, como les digo. Mi training, mi estudio fue más como pintora y como escultora soy autodidacta. Trabajo con bronce, madera y uso muchos objetos encontrados, así que cuando tengan un garage sale, por favor, avísenme. Tengo en este momento 3 exposiciones. Una es una exposición personal, que es en la galería Louis Stern Fine Arts, está en Melrose, es una galería muy prestigiosa, me siento muy orgullosa, es la segunda exposición que tengo con ellos y quedé muy contenta porque me la alargaron 15 días. También en este momento estoy exponiendo con 5 artistas latinoamericanos en la Universidad de California, Los Ángeles, Cal State University. La exposición se llama Labyrinth of Multitude, que justamente es una exposición que intenta entender cómo el artista inmigrante se va ubicando en una sociedad como la sociedad de Los Ángeles. No sé si ustedes están al tanto de que hay un museo de arte latinoamericano que está en Long Beach. En este momento son artistas de Chile, de Argentina y de Uruguay. Tengo 3 obras allí también. Es por casualidad que ahora tengo tantas, no es que siempre pase, hay muchas veces que no tengo nada en ningún lado.
Welcome back. Thank you. It's good to see you again. If you have someone, not little one anymore, at all. So how are things?
Good.
Good?
How have things been here?
Things are great. Things are great. We're getting calls about yourself all the time.
Great.
All the time, especially the one upstairs.
Cool.
There's a funny story behind this piece here.
Beyond gaming.
It was actually this Blanco marble was given to me by a friend of mine some years ago. And this is a secret, so don't let it out. It was swiped from a tombstone maker's yard. It was right there next to the driveway. It was midnight. There was just a chain blocking it. So this unidentified friend of mine grabbed it, pulled it out, and he gave it to me. So the symbolic implications were tremendous for me. Especially, you know, in a lot of my work, I deal with the concept of life as an ongoing, eternal thing. You know, and death is a transition, not really the end of things, but maybe just the disintegration of a form and taking on another form. And so the fact that this piece came from where it came really lent itself to my concepts. So in a sense, this piece was very much ready-made. I just kind of finished it. The holes were there, the fact that it was part of a tombstone, and that in itself being symbolic of the cycles of life and so-called death. It all kind of came together as I lived with it for a little while, and then started working my butt off to finish it, to bring it to completion. And not all these things were apparent to me as I'm working on the stone. Many things become apparent, you know, during the process, sometimes after I'm done with the stone. So not everything is necessarily consciously worked into the stone. But it's my concept of a peace prayer. It's my prayer for peace in the form of a sculpture. And being that a stone can last for thousands of years, you know, it's possible that my prayer will last for thousands of years. Hopefully it won't be needed for thousands of years, but that's the idea.
I tried very hard for years to do something that would sell, and I was trying to use colors that I thought were going to fit better in people's houses. For the first, I think, 7 years that I was here in Los Angeles, I think I sold a few pieces at the beginning, but at $50 a piece to a decorator. And then nothing for at least 6 years.
By recommendation of art historian Margarita Nieto, I remember going to his studio, very small place, garage, if I remember well, by UCLA, where his wife was teaching at the time of finishing her master's. And I walked in having a speech prepared because this was a recommendation by somebody, and you know how it is, you say, thank you very much, but we're not taking any more artists.
I was not successful, so I decided to give up and not care about the art market or selling anymore. And I just decided that I was going to work during the day and at night do just what I wanted to do, more as a hobby than anything else.
When I walked in the garage and I saw the work, he had the garage full of paintings, all dark pieces, very, very moving, very powerful. It took me about half a second to decide that not only I wanted pieces in my collection, but I wanted him to be represented by the Iturralde Gallery. Because the gallery is run by my sister and myself, I knew that Anna had to come and look at the work herself. So I got back home and she was very sick at the time, and I said, I don't care if you're really sick tomorrow, either you go tomorrow and you give me your opinion, or I'm going to make the decision myself. So to make it short, we went the next day and we picked up about, I remember, maybe 10 pieces.
And at that moment was when I somehow got some interest in my work, and I found the gallery and I started not being very successful, but at least I started selling. The first year a lot of pieces were sold.
Arturo was quite unknown. He was doing this because it was his passion, and it's still his passion. And because he didn't have the space, he was mostly painting small format paintings, and he would hang them next to his stove in his apartment. And while cooking dinner for his 2 daughters, he would be painting.
Part of a group art exhibition with the Arroyo Arts Collective. It's an outdoor area, and I chose this wall. I think it's appropriate. There's gang writing here and barbed wire. And I'm sure there's been a lot of action in this area, but I've changed this to a place of positive prayer. And this is called La Llorona. And La Llorona is the Mexican woman who weeps. Her voice is the wind, and you hear her by the river. And she is the woman who destroys her children, or somebody destroys her children. But her children are destroyed, and she weeps. This is part of the altar installation. Little Hands. The public is invited to record names, and a little child wrote the name of his sister because his sister died. And then he put it in here in the little baby bassinet. So it's like a little altar. It's a gallery and a political educational tool, the baby bassinet. These are my little babies, and I have dolls here to represent slain children. It's an altar, but it's also a political statement because I have commentary from the newspapers about slain children, and also the tragedy of children killing other children. And I also show evidence of how easy it is to get guns in our society. We have more guns than any other country, and we have more slayings of young children. This one was really incredible. First grade firepower. This is that little first grader who killed the other little girl.
Yeah.
And then there's articles saying how the house is just filled with that. The house is just filled with guns and drugs. And then there's information here about that on the New Year in December. Gun sales was so up. They just... And they report on it, how they were so happy, they were making so much money. And the guy was bragging about, everybody was in here buying their little toys. They called it toys. This is what I choose to do. I'm a teacher and I like to make things better. And you know, I'm a mother and I think mothers want to do things better and make things better for our children. And this is how I make things better. Through a painting, through a building. So I'm healing myself and I feel I can make the world a better place.
Where's the box office?
The box office is under here.
No, but there's another one exactly
Yeah,
like it on the
but
side.
it's-
Where is that? Oh, is that?
Way back in here.
And this is the sidewalk, then that's Highland?
I can tell you more after I do the color rendering. I'll get a better feel and a better idea. I think I can do it pretty fast once I get started.
Because the auditorium is to be painted, right?
We also wanted it to represent the diversity that we see here at Hollywood High School. We're a very multi-cultural school, and the students felt that anything on a wall or a building of Hollywood High School really should represent the students currently, not necessarily all from the past.
The idea that we have alumni as well as other notables, and we're trying to be representative of diversity throughout the school culture.
What's the access over here to read the script? Is it going to be large enough where you can read it from the street, or is it large enough because when you walk up here to read it?
Well, hopefully I can do it larger so it's
From the street?
pick it up from the street. Yeah, so it just depends on the size of the lettering. And I think that we'll have to get together and decide who we want to mention here. Because, you know, there's only so much room, especially if we want to make it readable. I mean, I could put 100 names up here, but it's going to be smaller, you know.
It's away from her. You still have.
Okay, let's go. Okay, well, thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
This is going to be kind of bland, standing out. Just start a mural on one side. And then pretty soon you just get ready. Just to the start. Just to the start right here. Big Christmas right here.
Well, this is not because I'm a legend. You know that.
It's easy for you to say. You just rap it.
Of course, my work changed a lot when I came here, because now, I mean, in Mexico we talk about everything. In Mexico, I mean, you have an opinion of about everything. We, for example, in theater or film, I mean, we talk about everything. I mean, we can do a Shakespeare thing. We can do. I mean, it doesn't matter that this is not a Latino thing. Actually, I'm a little mad with the Latino classification, because I think it's wow, how do you say, falta de respeto.
I was really motivated to become an artist, and I was really claiming, because it made sense to me, being a Chicano. Even though the thing about Chicanos, especially from the city, is we're just as American as the next person. The thing what happens is that we can take advantage of any perceived splits or schisms. The sense about prejudice is, I mean, that's, people have prejudices because they don't like your shoes, you know?
Arturo has been chosen, one of his paintings has been chosen to be a part of a humongous exhibition that's going to open next year at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art.
But I'm just going to have one painting in the show. I don't know the other artists how many paintings are going to have.
We're in Section 5 of the Made in California exhibition, Made in California Art, Image and Identity, 1900 to 2000. It's the largest show that the museum has ever done. It covers something like 50,000 square feet of space and 100 years of art made in the state. We are in Section 5, which covers the 1980s and the 1990s. Made in California is not a survey of 100 years of art made in the state. It's a thematic exhibition. And in its broadest theme, what it's concerned with is images of California, again, taken in the most open sense of the term. So on one hand, you could have really representational images of aspects of the state, and on the other, you could have representations of the state that are largely symbolic. The process for curating this exhibition was quite complicated because we had so many curators working on it. What we did was we started with the largest possible checklist that we could. In other words, all of the work that interested us, that we felt fit into the themes of the exhibitions, we presented, and at different points our checklist was very large, and then we slowly whittled it down because we had to, because of space considerations.
The painting was changed hands 3 times. It was sold in 1995, and the wife of the person that bought it couldn't handle the image. So this person took the piece back and was resold to another person, and the same thing happened. I don't know if it was exactly the same situation, but again it was resold until the gallery owners rebought the piece, and the museum selected that one.
The piece selected for the LACMA show, we had already sold to another collector, and a few weeks after he bought it, he brought it back because the wife didn't like it. And so what my sister and I did, without even thinking twice, you know, we said we'll buy it back from you. And we just decided to keep it in the collection of the gallery.
I was just very interested in Arturo Mallmann's images of Los Angeles as a kind of, they're sort of dystopic images. One of the themes that you get in the exhibition is the play back and forth between utopia and dystopia. And certainly in the 1980s and especially the early 90s with the riots, with the fires, with the earthquakes, you get a lot of dystopic images of Los Angeles. And I think that his images of Los Angeles, you get dystopic images of the state as a whole, a lot of different locations within it. I think his images of Los Angeles fit perfectly under that rubric.
Welcome to Self-Help Graphics. I'm a member here of Self-Help Graphic as an artist. I often teach here. They have also activities for the children. They have different studios here. They have a gallery here and a store to sell your arts. You help yourself as an artist. You can create art here for free. But you help self-help also, and you give some of your work to self-help. And you do your best work here, possible. You give an addition or part of an addition to self-help, and self-help will exhibit your work, sell the work, or travel your work. Your work will be in archives in San Francisco, Mexico, Texas, etc. Or, as I said, around the world. That's one of the goals of self-help, is to produce your art, become a better artist, and share it, you know. And teach others, share with others. Self-Help Graphics has artists and organized groups, shows within it.
the DADA Group, Downtown Development Association, to encourage art downtown and the revival of activity downtown. I especially am fond of this place because this is the place where I came as a child. I was raised nearby on City Terrace on Hazard Street here. My dad was a young man during the Depression. He couldn't finish high school because he needed to help support the family. But he valued education and he worked hard. All his life was to support his family, and he loved books. He really taught us to respect ourselves, to respect our culture, and to appreciate our Indian heritage from Mexico, our Indian heritage, but also our Spanish part of our culture. I went through my rebellious stage because I felt that the conquistadores didn't do us much good. And he says, anyway, we're mestizos, we're mixed. We're European, we're Espanol, and then the Indian, we're beautiful people, the mestizos. But I think we find ourselves with our art. And that was the vision of Sister Karen who founded this place. Our art is authentic Chicano art, Mexican-American art, both the Spanish influence and the Indian influence. And it's very highly narrative.
One is working creatively. We're constantly working. No matter what you're doing. Your ideas are going through your head. Many times I find myself sculpting in my head, drawing in my head. Many times I'd work. When I was working for a company, I'd be working on the computer screen, I'd be drawing on the side. My work and my creative expression, that's always taken first. First importance, of prime importance. Because that's just who one is. Can't help it. The same way, my speech patterns, my hair is black. Well, I create art. I'm gonna create regardless whether my work is selling or not. That's not why I create. I'm not saying anything new. I'm saying something that's been said by many artists before me and many of my contemporaries. One creates this because one needs to create. So, if one sells, awesome, man. Thank you very much. Sign it right here. Great, because that allows us to keep on creating. And it also serves as it gives you a nod. It feels great. I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. Yeah, sure. Somebody buys my work. It feels great, man. It's inspiring. It means, wow, man, it meant something to this person. What I created meant something to this person. It is fulfilling. But it's just as fulfilling if somebody doesn't buy your work, but they buy it with their praise, or you see a smile on their face, or you see a thoughtful moment as they're looking at your piece, and you see that it's touching them in one way or another. That's just as fulfilling, sometimes even more so, because that's what the work is about. It's not about making the work to sell. That's a part of it, right? In a business world, which is a business world, in part. That's not all there is to it. But the real reason you're creating is being appreciated. Your work is being seen. It's having an effect on that person. But in the end, which is worth more in art? What you sell a piece of work for, or what that piece of work can inspire on somebody else?
I'm busy restoring a mural that men had previously worked on. A mural like this is very important because it has a lot of history behind it, but also at the same time it lets me use my formal art training. That's something that's very European, very a lot of people just think that when you're Hispanic you do bead hands and crosses and pinto art, and that's not always the case. I'm an abstract painter myself. I do huge paintings of abstract figure forms, very organic, and so I wanted to use some of that and incorporate that in here.
When
I first saw the work, I found it very unusual. I thought that it was beautifully constructed. I think that I was struck by the amount of forethought, or in a sense premeditation, that she puts in her work. Everything appears to be and is very well thought out. And that struck me, that I was attracted to that, the content, the way she put these found objects together was very clever, I thought. And I started with a few works and got strong feedback, very, very positive feedback on her work, which of course as an art dealer encourages us. And that was the beginning.
Best transparency for Louis. Okay.
Victoria is one of my first collectors. I took my first pieces to have professionally photographed. I was very nervous and excited, and then she said, well, I want to buy one. That was so special.
She brought her mother to my studio to drop off some work, and the piece is in my front window. And she goes, she brought her mother, it was kind of like going to the zoo. Look, mother!
When our department sends out a call for artists, we start with our mailing list. We have a mailing list of about 3,000 artists who are located throughout the state of California, and another 600 artists who are nationally. For the Animal Regulations Project, we received about 87 submissions. 5 finalists were narrowed down from a pool of 87. And the mechanism that is used is basically the artists are asked to submit 10 slides of their work, a letter of interest and a resume, and the panelist reviews all the 10 slides of all 87 applicants, and they review their resume, their statement of interest, their letter of qualifications, and then just cull the pool down until they get 5 finalists that they really want. In the case of the Animal Regulations Project, there were 3 artists, 1 community representative, the project architect, a representative from Animal Regulations, and a rep from Bureau of Engineering. We also use a blind panel process, so the artists are not known by their name, they're given a number, and the panel is reviewing artist numbers 1 through 87. And it is the name of the artist is not revealed until they've selected the 5 finalists, at which time we let them know who they selected. At the end of the day, they selected Eloy Torrez for the project.
We talked about the animal shelter represented, and the diverse ethnicity. Basically, I wanted to do a portrait of Los Angeles. You know, that's my personal contribution that I'd like to do to the mural. As you can see, the city of LA in the background.
As artists of Latin descent come into the fore, I think politically what's going on is that we are no longer just seen as peons or workers in restaurants or sweatshops, but we're in fact now members of a productive intellectual milieu.
I can't even make up something. An orange crate. Maybe.
Thank you. What about these? There is this cross that the painting, that the tabletop has, that I would like to respect, but then I will have to work a completely different image than the one that I thought.
He's a master of, to some degree, a lost art, which is sculpting in marble and alabaster. His meticulousness and his attention to detail, his refinement, and his artistic expertise is as good as I've ever seen.
I'll work with a series of drawings, everything from a doodle on the side of a notepad to a drawing on nice paper or watercolor, playing with the design. Just the idea. Just basically what's happening is that the idea starts taking on a life. So in this case, it's evolving that idea to fit this particular shape of marble. And it was once part of a church somewhere in Los Angeles. Where they come from, that makes it really interesting. Gives it a lot of room for interpretation. I'll leave part of the corners of the stone untouched, almost shaped like stalagmites, and at the same time, corner pillars of this architectural form. And the figure is emerging from that.
Her energy is remarkable, but what comes to mind, the analogy that comes to mind is the splotches of paints, because it's always, this kind of combustion, and sometimes, frankly, I'm talking about a good old friend, so I can say these nasty things about her that sometimes will drive me crazy, but I also think that the great thing about her is that spontaneity and that willingness to explore ideas and to pursue uncharted waters. And yet what's so remarkable about her is that if you take a quick look at her resume, you find out that she has not one, but 2 master's degrees in different subjects, and is actually coming from a learned background. So it's kind of like paraphrasing Picasso, how he once said it takes a long time to become young. And I think that with Vibiana, she sort of edifies that personality, that it takes a long time of really learned thinking to become that loose and that kind of creative and explosive.
My culture and my family have influenced me, and they've given me tools for emotional survival. Those are tools.
Her work is very rich in colors. She has no problems in using the colors that most artists would be frightened. And it's this experimenting and challenging perspective and understanding that she has about the palette and her composition that makes her uniquely Vibiana Aparicio.
I believe art is for your soul to survive, but in a language. But for me, making art is like eating. It's food.
We do workshops with the kids drawing and painting, and just try to get the young people to have a feeling of accomplishment through art. Antes que lo hagamos a doblar así, lo vamos how do you say divide? A dividir así, y puedan dibujar, a ver si podemos dibujar. La idea es de
la naturaleza.
De la naturaleza, okay? Okay, the idea is kind of like nature and Earth Day. It's and the planet that we live in.
And how you relate to it.
And how you relate to it. It could be, pueden ser unas formas, how do you say, orgánico, or you can improvise, pueden ser improvisar en las formas, no tienen que dibujar realistic, en realidad. You know what I'm saying, right?
Sí.
¿Me entiendes? You could be creative and maybe a dibujar una forma aquí y luego cuando it turns like that, hace otra cosa. You know what I mean? Piénsala bien. A ver, be creative. See what you think of coming up with. You understand? Okay? Boy, sorry for my Spanish.
I've been working with Cecilia for about 3.5 years now, but I've known her for probably almost 10. years. I met her at the foundry where I worked. She had saved up her money and was going to get some of her sculptures cast. She'd done some clay sculptures out of that were heads, I think mostly figurative, very straightforward, hugely different from what she does now.
He is the only person that can be around, and I'm working, and he knows exactly if he can talk to me or if he better that don't talk.
It was very a bold move on her part to quit her job at the consulate, which offered a lot of security, a paycheck, and pursue her sculpture on a full-time basis. And I was, I knew her quite well by then, and I was scared even just to see somebody do that.
I'm so lucky and so privileged to have such an outstanding artist helping me out in my little details.
After she quit, she never has let up. She's, you know, there's been tough times, and making the artwork when there's no sales guaranteed gets very expensive, and you really have to have a lot of faith and be very strong.
My earliest influences, really, I would have to say, were my father and my father's family.
Toda mi familia es artista. Todo por parte de mi mamá, los hermanos. Todos eran escultores y pintores. El gran escultor Francisco Zúñiga, que vive en México, era primo hermano mío. Entonces cuando Rudy nació dije, otro más.
My dad's uncle was a sculptor, Zúñiga. He did religious imagery, and several of his sons have gone on to become professional sculptors. One of them passed away recently. He was my dad's first cousin. His name was Francisco Zúñiga. He was born in Costa Rica. He went to Mexico. He made his career over there. He became pretty renowned.
Maybe 3 years, 4 years. He's crazy for the pencil and the paper. Le compré plastilina y le enseñé a hacer caras y vi que tenía mucha facilidad.
Ahora Rudy nunca pensó, desde niño nunca pensó en otra profesión que no fuera arte. Nunca, por más que uno le decía, bueno, ¿y no te gusta ser quizá abogado, doctor, cualquier otra cosa? No, y siempre dijo no, arte y arte desde niño.
And then all the stories my dad would tell me growing up of him working with his uncle just totally inspired me. But my dad didn't pursue art after that. But I did, so in a sense, I continued his tradition.
Part of the job when I'm done with a series of paintings is to create enthusiasm in the gallery owners, who are Teresa and Ana Iturralde, that I have a very good relationship with them. Things are going well, but I can see that if they are enthusiastic about the work, they show it more, they put more energy into the whole thing. So for me it is a very important part. So they are coming on Tuesday, and we'll see what happens.
You have to attract people to what you do, because what you do people find interesting, exciting, and vital towards where we are now and what we do to make an existence for ourselves.
I think the main thing that was interesting to me with Margaret is that I saw a combination of a lot of things in her. I saw like this indigenous person, but also a very Arabic, Mediterranean kind of thing in her genetics that was really interesting to me. And I've always been kind of attracted to that, I guess, like dark hair, dark skin.
I was taking a watercolor class at South Ave Graphics, and he was an artist in residence there.
The best thing about Margaret is she is an artist too, and so we have that understanding already. And that's the best thing about it, is she's my biggest fan, and you really don't realize how important that is, you know, in a partnership.
I'm really struck by that he doesn't like dismiss my work. I mean, I don't really think he really likes my artwork, but he's respects me a lot because he's always asking, why don't you come to the studio and paint? Or why don't I fix you an area in the garage to paint?
You know, just like any relationship, it's good, it's not so good. There's love, and then there's love and hate, and then there's love, and then there's love and not so much love, and it just goes back and forth, you know. But I think the main thing is that she's so supportive, and I think it's really important, you know, if you're going to be an artist, to be lucky to have a partner that's supportive, that's understanding, you know, I hope that I'm the same thing for her.
She has been the companion to her husband for several years, has struggled with a disability, and you would think that someone with that kind of energy, it might be hard for her, but in fact, what's really lovely is to watch them together and the kind of patience and the kind of caring that she shows for that man. I mean, this is a man who is truly loved, truly lucky to be loved that much by a woman.
I'm Vibiana Aparicio-Chamberlin, and my husband is Richard Chamberlin over here, and we're part of the family of Huntington Hospital. I enjoy coming here every summer to do a special art activity, and this time we're going to do a Mexican folk art activity, and it's going to be painting on a plate. I want you to be an artist and have fun.
Can we start?
Yes, start.
Okay, good luck everybody.
I selected Mexican themes from ancient Mexico because they're very stylized, they're icons, they're like symbols, they tell a story, these little symbols. And I am Mexican American myself, so I love anything Mexican.
For many of these individuals, the stroke wiped out language and speaking ability, and art can be very freeing for them, and
here we go again,
an opportunity to express themselves at a whole different level.
I am the only one talking too much.
No, you don't talk too much.
We love to hear you.
What up?
You want some water?
No. What up?
You want to wipe off? Yes. Now, here. Since Dick has had treatment here for his various strokes, we've become very involved with the hospital. And Dick's involved especially in his garden that he has out there by the rehab.
My relationship with Sergio is in a moment of transition.
When she decided to become the artist, she had to cut off everything else that was an obstacle, and I think it included me. Well, it included me, obviously. You know, I was not priority one. I think I had been priority one for her when she had that job, and she felt that she had to have the job so that we would feel more secure financially. But she was not a happy person.
We have a very, very supportive relationship, even though we don't live together.
When she decided to quit her job and dedicate herself to the work, I really supported her. I was very happy. I said, finally, you're going to do who you are, what you really want to do. I was incredibly happy. And I was, happier as she started getting shows, and she'd sell some pieces here and there. But what happened was that she became so successful that she started paying less and less attention to us as a couple.
I'm not sure where we are going as a couple. I know where we're going as human beings, as friends, and everything we give to each other.
I saw these pieces that she's made in the last 8-10 months. They were so expressive of herself completely that I realized that she really needs to be alone. That's when she's the happiest. She did this in around 92 or 93. When she started doing bronzes, she was still working on the consulate. This was around 94, 95 is when she started to mix wood with found objects and cast bronze pieces. And to me was the big change in her art, was when she started really thinking about what she was making and being much more expressive.
Y se me ocurrió invitar a Rudy a que fuera también a México, a que hablara sobre su experiencia en el arte, particularmente en la escultura, y que diera una conferencia de su punto de vista de cómo ha sido el desarrollo del arte mexicano o latino chicano en Los Ángeles. Entonces hicimos unos convenios por ahí con la gente de la universidad y mandé a México su currículum y la propuesta de conferencia que le iba a dar en México.
Bárbara Carrasco, la artista que hizo esta serigrafía de este retrato, trabajó mucho con César Chávez, haciéndole murales y en todo el movimiento de las vueltas de César.
De la Universidad de Colima lo invitaron, él fue a Colima y dio una conferencia y también dio otra conferencia sobre ese mismo asunto con un grupo de artistas alternativos en Colima. Lo invitó a él también a que diera esa misma conferencia, pero en la Universidad de Guadalajara. Entonces aprovechamos el viaje de México, él fue a Colima, dio 2 conferencias en Colima y una conferencia en Guadalajara.
I think we surround ourselves with the people that feed us emotionally, artistically. Like I said, unfortunately, some people in the art community, the Latin art, Hispanic art community, have kind of like, you're not Mexican enough, or some people say you're too Mexican, or you're being irresponsible in regards to the responsibility that somehow they feel I have towards my heritage. I am my heritage. I'm a walking Hispanic male.
Much of my art has to do with mother as nurturer, mother as lover, as woman, as educator, and I have assumed those roles, but that's a role that my mother has taken and my grandmothers have taken, and who are immigrants. I directed theater and children's theater, and I was in adult theater. What I was involved with was very hot and it was very poignant.
There was no funny, no.
Right, there were no endowments for the art. We called ourselves cultural workers. Cultural workers.
Cultural workers.
And I consider myself a cultural worker in a different way, but still, I still have it in my head about being didactic.
That's one thing we have in common is that, we don't see art for art's sake. We see art for a reason. You have inspired so many of us to be more creative, and to me, I haven't seen anybody make such beautiful puppets. Look at the one she has here.
This is my little rod puppet, La Llorona. Ay de mi Llorona, Llorona de azul celeste. Ay de mi Llorona, Llorona de azul celeste. Aunque mi vida me cueste, Llorona, no dejaré de quererte. Aunque mi vida me cueste, Llorona, no dejaré de quererte.
The beginning of the telling of a story that actually began so long ago, but only now is America truly recognizing the contributions of Cesar Chavez.
These are the photographers.
These are the giants. These are the people who saw Cesar.
Now, another part of the exhibition is the other visual artist, Eloy Torrez. In fact, Eloy brought that canvas and it was wet. You could smell, he just finished it. Where's Eloy? It's a wonderful, wonderful portrait. Andale, Eloy, there you are. Can we have a great applause for these wonderful people?
exhibition is going to travel to the Chicano Museum in Phoenix, Arizona.
Esto es una mesa. Bueno, eso es un espejo. Aquello es un cuadro que lo pinté por arriba.
¿Estás trabajando en una serie particular, Arturo?
Sí. Yo supongo que todas las cosas tienen que ver con un mundo interior, no están basados en la realidad.
Los encuentro un poco problemáticos. Para mí son 1, 2...
Les digo cuáles son los últimos,
Y
porque
ese también.
estos dos son los últimos.
Sí.
Y yo no sé si están totalmente terminados, están un poco como raw.
Este siento que va bien.
Ahí va.
Va
Sí.
bien, va bien. Este no. Cut. We're not
Because we are kind of tense and we need to concentrate.
No, because he's getting nervous. Estos dos que aunque no me vuelven loca, pero entran dentro de... Ya es cuestión personal, ¿no? ¿Qué onda aquí?
Bueno...
O sea, la idea de dejar el espejo, tu cuerpo es un espejo, tú eres un espejo de alguien más.
Bueno, no, lo que quería era que la gente que lo mira se vea reflejada, como que cualquiera puede estar en ese lugar.
El problema yo no creo déjame decir, en que tú tengas el espejo ahí que la gente se refleja. Eso yo no veo el problema. El problema yo veo en la técnica.
Yo creo que si le sigues trabajando algo, no sé si es por el uso del color tan concentrado.
Es demasiado bold para tu estilo.
Sí, es cierto.
Al menos de que si yo hubiera entrado aquí y todos los demás cuadros hubieran sido en estos tonos en vez de en estos tonos, hubiera dicho perfecto. Arturo,
pero a mí ese cuadro se me hace que no está terminado.
De ver las 3 piezas que más me gustaron, sin saber más explicación, esa y esa. Esa pieza, Tere, cuaja tan increíblemente bien en lo que ha sido el cambio de la obra de Arturo Mallmann.
Por eso digo, es obra
es Arturo,
pero más maduro.
Sí.
Okay, Latino is, I mean, if you're talking about marketing or something, okay, you can put us there, but it's just for marketing, it's just for selling things or something like that. But if you're talking about culture, I'm Mexican and I have friends who are from Peru, from Bolivia, from Argentina, from Brazil. I mean, and we're really different. I mean, everyone are so proud about being what they are.
How did you get the idea? I mean,
the exhibition and the lectures and everything.
This is good practice for the radio show. I really started thinking about how much Chicano art has changed in general, and to a larger extent how Latino art is so different today. Basically, Cal State LA is located in East LA, and it was important to show East LA people how Latino art is different, because most of the art in East LA is Chicano art, very traditional, hasn't really changed much from the 1960s. And it was important to show them exactly where it's come in 30 years, where it's going, how it's able to blend into mainstream art without losing any of the vitality, any of the sort of Latinness of the work, which I think is an important element, because people think that once you become a part of the mainstream that you're going to lose your identity. And that hasn't happened in any of these artists.
Okay, get ready to go in there.
Hi, how you doing? I'm doing great.
Hello, I'm Gerda Gobin, back in the studio with my next round of guests.
Susanna is the guest curator for an exhibition that will be taking place at the Luckman Fine Arts Gallery called The Labyrinth of Multitude.
Cecilia Miguez is a sculptor. She works with wood and metal, does beautiful pieces, very delicate work, very strong. And her work, like all the artists in the exhibition, it really symbolizes Latino art in the city today, which is at a very high level. It's not really about stereotypical images that you would think about Latino art.
When did you start out as an artist? Where did it come from? Was it something you've always wanted to do? Did you arrive at that later? What's your story in reference to your artistry?
I think you are born as an artist, and it's true that your experiences and whatever life brings you can possibly stop you in some way, sometime in your life. And I had the joy to be able to continue and never lose track that I was feeling I had something to say. But I think my career went into lots of ups and downs.
They suggested me to get rid of the black that I always use to surround my paintings so that the light in the middle shines. I think they have a strong point. But the fact that they are the gallery owners, I have a problem with. I mean, if somebody else would have told me that, I would have probably let that affect me immediately without much resistance. But the fact that they are the gallery owners makes it a different thing. They are not supposed to tell me what to paint.
This is the archival print room at Self-Help Graphics. And here's my silkscreen, La Chola, Blessed Mother. Cholas Amens. It's a prayer and a message to young women to love ourselves. Love yourself. El abuso engañoso. And this is about the disappointment that some women find in marriages with spousal abuse. La poetisa, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, 17th century nun, mystic, intellectual, poet, and a real inspiration to we Chicanas. And she's gorgeous.
We're always glad to have one of your pieces here. This is lovely.
And this is a mixed media, ink and gold embossing.
And watercolor with gold embossing.
Cindy just came.
Thank you, Margaret.
You know, the rest of things.
Spiritually speaking, I was brought up to be a free thinker. So what drives my work, my ideas are my spiritual perceptions in my own life's experience, in my meditations, in my observations. And the work itself starts revealing insights to me.
I've always been very impressed by Rudy's work and his desire to create such beautiful figurative pieces in stone, because he must be the only Chicano in the state of California that produces work that is so arduous and time-consuming. It has that romantic element in it, that spiritual element that we all know is part of Rudy in the way that he lives.
You might want to put the culture in, you know, just to make an example of it. And it's fine if that's the artist's particular interest. Right. That's totally valid. You know? Just not my interest. My interest in my culture will come out just naturally. You know, I'm more interested in exploring universal spiritual concepts.
Right now I'm in the process of, I just pretty much finished roughing out the whole figure, the whole sculpture. I'm now defining the musculature, the proportions of the body. It's somewhat abstracted, it's elongated to fit the flow of the piece.
I've always thought that his stonework would make his career. I always thought that it would give him his name, and I still believe that.
Currently, we have Rudy Calderon and his sculptures here, which have been displayed here for the last month, and it's been a great honor to showcase work like this with this talent because of its high quality and dedication that you can honestly see that this man puts in.
I recently had someone approach me at an exhibit, and after looking at all my artwork on exhibit, turning and asking me who my favorite artist was, and before I could answer, the person said that they assumed it was Diego Rivera. Now, none of my artwork at all resembles the style of Diego Rivera, so the person was making that judgment call based on my appearance or based on who they thought I was as a Mexican-American artist.
When I was in New Mexico growing around my family, my father, since he was, well, his name is Eloy, my name is Eloy, so I think he was a little bit more tight, the screws a little bit tight with me because I was the oldest.
I guess que us parents ser un poco más estrictos con los mayores porque no tenemos that experience.
My father didn't like the idea too much, and I can understand. He had to leave school in the 8th grade to provide, to make money, to help the family, because they were a pretty large family, and he didn't want the same thing for me. He just thought that it was not a good economical decision to make as far as, survival and financial situations.
That an artist no pertenecía a una familia pobre es una cosa que muchos la hacen y muchos no la hacen,
In other words, what Tina says that art is not a necessity.
In my mind, I thought, well, I don't want my father's ideas to hold me back from pursuing what it is that I really want to do.
In fact, él se enojaba con nosotros porque se le hacía a él, I guess, que we would joke, we weren't really, al principio que comenzó, we didn't encourage him too much, in other words. Pero luego as time went by, que íbamos a sus shows, a sus murals, but then he found out that we would support him,
That there was a real easy way of becoming a victim, or saying, if it only were the people would really come and see the work, or if we would only get a chance. Well, what happens is that we realize is that from real critical thinking and talking and arguing in my late 20s to mid 30s, realize it's this whole victim thing. It doesn't really, the whole thing about being a victim, or this victim politics thing, it doesn't really attract people to your work.
Politically speaking and sociologically speaking, it's a really good thing that is no longer this colorful, folkloric iconography, but truly seminal work that is speaking of the whole human condition. And it's great that it's happening in LA, because LA, as we know, is perhaps one of the most important cosmopolitan centers in the world.
At a certain point, I realized that I didn't want them to be white, that it was not coming from myself, the need to paint them white. And the result didn't have the intensity that I wanted, and I felt that I was not being myself. And I don't know, maybe some painters can do things that are good that way, but I have never been able to.
Part of my job for the last 20 or 25 years, I have run a small gallery in the library. Over the years, I've built up what I consider a very nice list of artists who have exhibited their work here. And in the particular case of Rudy, it had gotten to around January, and I'd been on a long vacation, and I came back and realized that I did not have any exhibitions planned for the library gallery for the next couple of months. And I have a friend, Don Ferguson, who is just wonderful at tuning me into the art community, and within the next 2 days, 2 or 3 people called me. One of those was Rudy. I said, fine, I'll give you these dates, and on the basis of Don Ferguson's recommendation. And he showed up that evening with a truckload of sculptures, which he and a friend of his hauled up to the library gallery and set up. And as it turned out, I had another event I had to go to, so I said, just do it and I'll fix the lighting in the morning. And so I walked in the following morning to change the lighting slightly and was just bowled over by the paintings along one wall and then the 5 individual sculptures which were placed along the other wall.
Bring it in.
Sí.
¿Puedo ver lo que tenemos?
Sí, sí, sí.
Good.
I was pretty successful in Uruguay. I had some awards, and I was just married to a very nice person, and I was very happy. And we both decided to immigrate to this country, which was something that I always thought that I wanted to do at a certain moment in my life. So I came with my new awards and some of my paintings and some of my sculpture, and I started kind of walking the galleries around, and that I was there for a surprise because it started being very difficult. People would not be interested in what I was doing, and I decided to get a regular job that was going to be to support my work. That was the way I used to live in Uruguay. Have a regular job and work at night or work on the weekends. I started working for the consulate of my country, which was very comfortable job, and also because it got me in contact with my country. So my immigration was a little pampered. It wasn't that difficult. I think I got a long transition. I worked there for 10 years. At the moment I decided to leave that job, I wasn't that ready for it. If I continue here, I'm never gonna go ahead being a working person that has a hobby. And so I decided to get a studio, really get serious and put all my effort and all my work and my energy in my work. And the moment I decided, everything started changing.
I didn't really start out as a public artist. I fell into it, and it's a challenge.
Oh, that's what you want to do. Make a killer bee mad up on a scaffold, right?
It wasn't until this project that I met Eloy and then began to talk to him and understand what other murals exist around the city that were actually painted by him.
Now the truck comes. It's not windy out there. We're committed.
Public art, for me, is commercial art. Okay? You talk about the theme, you talk about what it is that they would like to see, and so you come up with a composition and you try to make as many people happy as possible, and it is what it is. And I've come to the point now that to accept that it is what it is. One has to come to the conclusion that you're pretty damn lucky to make a living, with your artistic skills. So I've come to peace with myself about that.
We're not really going up that much, are we? We're probably not more than an inch higher over there than we are over here. This is basically where we want it, right here. Are we fairly straight now? Yeah.
The dilemma is always how do you get to have more time to work on your personal art? And that's the most frustrating thing for me at times. And I think probably that's where the music comes in, is that the music is so instantaneous that it satisfies that somehow, that I'm doing something, I'm writing a song that's 100% my idea.
plastic, didn't I?
At the top is 69. 81 on the nose.
I'm fortunate, I've been lucky, I get public art, I've been able to make a living doing that. There's a lot of interesting, challenging aspects to it too, you know. Art also sometimes is, you just can't live in a shell and not share it with people. And public art is sharing with people, and it's sharing with the masses. You know, it's a balancing act. But it's a good place to be. Hey, you know, I mean, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. I'm thankful for what I've had, what I've been able to do. And now, if I can just find more time to do what I want to do, I mean, to work on my personal painting, I think it'd be a great place to be.
I think Eloy is an incredible painter. I've seen how the Animal Regulations Project has developed from conceptual renderings to the full-blown work. He's a great talent, and it's been wonderful to work with him.
I just think he's just really, really important to Los Angeles, and a major resource as one of our, well, certainly one of our finest muralists, and definitely one of our most wonderful painters.
This Latino market and this Latin hot thing, I think it's not Latin, it's for the non-Latin people, you know, it's not for us. I mean, we have our own music, we have our own cultural traditions and beliefs and everything. I mean, this when people talk about this, the hot Latin thing, is for the non-Latinos. They're talking, I mean, this is a classification for the non-Latino people that it, okay, it's okay, but I mean, Ricky Martin doesn't represent me at all.
Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, is a Latino tradition going back hundreds of years. And this is a tradition where we honor our dead. We make altars, we dance, we sing, we prepare food for them, we pray, and we remember our loved ones. In the Southwest, we celebrate by honoring with our dead ones with altars, and many of our altars really have a social consciousness. I give thanks to my family and friends, and I give thanks to people who brought their friends and have confidence in my love for you. Thank you. And this is honoring our children that have died, the children who will die, and the children who need to come to the world and to be born. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This is my father, who was a worker. In all his life, he was happy to be a construction worker, to labor by his hands, to take care of his children and his wife. That was his goal in life, was to work, and that's probably why he died young, because he worked in labor. But he said to be a common laborer was a thing of honor. And he was a very spiritual man, and he was very delicate in his sensibilities because he loved beautiful things. And he liked us to make pretty things. And he liked my mother to look pretty. Dances, we wish to join you and embrace you.
I started to paint specifically very late in my life. I was already 30 years old. I always knew that I wanted to do something related to art. I didn't know exactly what. I studied filmmaking when I was 20 years old for 2 years. I could tell that it was going to be for me very difficult to be working with so many people all the time. And then I started writing, which had the advantage that I was by myself. I felt in a way comfortable with writing for some things, but there was just something very intimate that I couldn't express that way. So when I was around 30 years old, I started spontaneously doing some images in a very childish way. I had no idea how to paint or draw. And I started little by little taking it more seriously. Right before I came to this country, I was, let me see, I got married 2 years before, and I had, we had two small girls. One was 9 months and the other one was 3 years old. I guess in those times I was so naive. I thought I was going to come here and my paintings were going to be sold right away, and I was going to be very successful right away. When I look now, I can very easily see how naive I was. I consider that there might be some things that I did in those days that were not bad, but they were just exercises. That's the way I see them now.
If you want to say I'm Latino, I am, because I'm from Latin America, but I don't see just one tendency. I think it's a very rich, very complex, and my work is from Uruguay, and there are many Uruguayan very, very important artists that from there that couldn't be called really Latino artists like they are called in Los Angeles.
I'm not necessarily overtly trying to express or to create or to show my Latin American heritage or Costa Rican heritage in my work. I don't find it necessary, but I do not deny that it comes through. I think it's inevitable for it to come through. I don't have to force it. My concern is of a universal nature.
If I go back to my country right now, either Uruguay or Argentina, I don't feel completely at home. I do have the feeling of going back home in a way, but it's not my home anymore. And this place, Los Angeles, where I live now, is somehow my new home, and I feel comfortable here. I don't know if I think about myself as an American or a Latin American or anything in this moment. I'm certainly a human being, as you said, but my identity is perhaps filled with too many things. It's unclear to me. I mean, I know more or less who I am. It's a mixture of so many things.
I'm Chicana, that's what I am, and I was born in East LA, and so throughout the years I've carried that little kernel of my experience in my heart. And my mother jokes with me and she says, well, you can take the girl out of East LA, but you can't take East LA out of the girl. And that is exactly true. My father was the same way. He always said, be proud of your culture. And so I am. And I'm also always aware of struggle and making the world a better place. And I believe that's also being a Chicana woman.
It seems to be an issue that I'm dealing with a little bit more now. And I think that the reason I'm dealing with it more now is because society makes me think about it. And I think that there's categories, and I think that human beings are always put into categories. But in reality, as a kid growing up, I always knew that part of me came from Europe, part of me mixed with the indigenous native people from here, but that covers such a broad spectrum of humanity to me. And I always looked at myself as being part of that, and I thought to stereotype myself or to put myself in one category, I thought was not a very creative way to think.
It's important to have your heritage and know where you came from so that you know where you're going. But at the same time, you have to also be yourself.
We're in a country where we're basically a number. Either, that works for us and against us. Nobody knows if you're like short, tall, or whatever. You're basically here, we're all here to produce and do something. Some people do, some people don't. If you want to sit here and blame, whatever on the fact that we are a number, then great, you found your excuse to do nothing. If you want to take that opportunity to say, you know what, nobody knows anything about me because I am a number, so therefore I could get anywhere and have no limitations, then you will succeed and you've used reality to your benefit. The reality is we're in a country where you can do whatever you want. And you know what? Unfortunately, people pull themselves down, limit themselves, and they need an excuse and they find it. If you're looking for that, great. I have no time. I have somewhere to go. Get out of my way.
My life's a movie, you can sit back and watch my life. Or you can hate me while I'm balling in my house with ice. Or you can love me like my homies do and watch me grow, just like my baby. My life should be a cable show. I seen it coming for it came with the lights in my name. The women hate me but they love the ice on my chain. I'm off the hook like spring break in Miami. Yo, we wildin' in the club, man, forget them haters, you can't stand me. Yo, pop another bottle, ease nothing but bosses. We the kind of bounce back when we take big losses. And I swerve in big trucks with Bo and get dough. And I hang with hustlers who really do hustle 24/7. And my jeans hang low as they can. I keep it street as I can. You ain't no man, you a cow with that heat in your hand. I'm on the hardest grind. If I get caught, I probably do the hardest time. My life's a movie. For real.
My life's a movie. My life's a movie.
My life's a movie, you can sit back and watch my life. Or you can hate me while I'm balling in my truck with ice. So you can love me like my mama do and watch me grow, just like my baby. My life should be a cable show. My life's crazy, sometimes I feel unfadeable. You can't change me, homeboy, I'm unchangeable. You can't fade me, I'm so focused now. My flow's as tight like security when the Pope in town. And I'ma keep this one clean like soap in the towel. I stay focused, homie, I don't ever care if it's loud. You wanna be down? We'll go back to the rap convention. It's Tip, think about me every time this rap is mentioned. I don't play around, you can hate me now. And you can talk mess and cops can shake me down, but I'm a grown-ass man with a cold-ass plan to get rich. You should know about the program, man. My life's a movie.
My life's a movie. My life's a movie. My life's a movie. My life's a movie.
Check it out. My life's a movie, you can sit back and watch my life. Or you can hate me while I'm balling on the stage with ice. So you can love me like my fans do and watch me grow, just like my baby. My life should be a cable show. Cause yo, I pay my own bills, baby, I'm a grown man. Yeah, I rock the crowd with the mic in my strong hand. While the other hand waving back and forth. I must be blowing up cause every day I'm back in court. It's so hard for a youngster like Tim to come through shining. Just knowing there's haters out there plotting while I'm grinding. I'm reminding y'all, it's a cold war after all. Tip gotta hustle, man. Tip can't play no basketball. Cause in the new year, this year I'm passing off and smashing off. A cash looking after that y'all. My life's a movie you can't see at the show. And all the drama that I've been through, man, you gotta be me to know. Yeah, break it down, come on. My life's a movie. Hey, hey.